So what's the first question?
So we have a question from Councillor James Frecknell. He would like to ask, what is being done to mitigate the extra traffic in the residential areas of Ware that has increased substantially owing to the social distancing measures?
Okay, so I'd firstly like to say that obviously these new temporary measures on the high street to have the physical distancing, they're obviously having an impact, a noticeable impact, negative one, on residents of those streets, and that's something which ultimately is very unfortunate at best. At worst, it can be very disruptive to people as they go about their day-to-day lives. What I would say, though, is that we do have a town centre reopening or steering group, which has a mixture of local councillors and an officer from East Herts District Council on it, and that is constantly feeding back how people are finding the system with the new traffic restrictions in Ware, and suggesting ways in which they can be, that the system can be improved. I say that it was put together very short notice, so I think that given that there are always going to be teething problems, including for the extra traffic that's coming into the residential areas of Ware, highways, Hertfordshire. So it's it's sort of. I think we've got to give them some leeway for that, even as we do push for mitigation to be made still where appropriate. I'd say that the west to east traffic is currently going around North Ware, and that's been flagged up as an issue from the start with this arrangement. We've got to respect, though, that Ware's got unique challenges because our high street is the main cross-town route. There's no easy alternatives. There's always going to be an issue there. But reversing the one-way flow is definitely something that I think is still being considered by this steering group, to put back 2 highways as a suggestion. Also, we're going to have, remember now, we've got this 1 metre plus, they're calling it, physical distancing rule rather than 2 metres. So there may be some opportunities there to make some changes to these temporary restrictions to help reduce the impact on those people in the high street, not high street, the residential streets. To finish though on that, I just want to say that although there are going to be continued inconveniences due to these restrictions, even if they are modified and some of these impacts are reduced significantly further, there's still going to be increased traffic on what we would normally have. But at the same time, we must recognise that we find ourselves in times without a parallel in my lifetime. And indeed, I'm sure I'm very young, so probably the Deputy Mayor's lifetime as well. We haven't had a situation like this before, and we're all going to have to be continue making sacrifices in order to get stuff like the town centre going, getting it open and making sure that people can come in safely to use it. And I think we've got to acknowledge that although there are negative impacts of this system, and many of us, including myself, would like to have seen things done differently, it's not all negative. There are positives that are now occurring because of the system that has been put in place. So I obviously think that we need to be working for the residents of the of these streets that are being used as cut throughs, and to try and reduce some of that traffic. But even if we have slightly increased traffic still what we normally have in normal times, that's not an all bad thing, given that it allows the town centre to safely reopen. I hope that sort of covers some of those points. I must say, though, very quickly before I finish, that it's ultimately up to Hertfordshire Highways what changes are made with these traffic systems. It's not up to the town council. We only have an advisory role in that. I would have liked to have seen one-way pavements, but I was told that sort of you go on one pavement on one side of the street, you go walking one way, and vice versa. If you're on the other side of the road, you're walking the other way up the high street. But I accept that they've been given guidelines nationally on what they can and can't do, and they've got to work within those. So yeah, I think we'll just continue feeding back residents' concerns through this steering group, and hopefully we can get some of the changes put in place, especially the relaxation of 2 meters down to 1 meter now, or 1 meter plus, they're calling it. And what was the second question?
Oh, can I add something to that, Alex?
Of course, yeah, of course. No, go ahead.
Thanks. Really, just to, well, partly to reiterate what Alex has said, that you know, highways have had to implement measures across 16 different towns throughout Hertfordshire at very short notice, which was obviously something that had to be done very quickly. And now that that has been pretty well complete, then there's time to have some breathing space. So the town centre steering group is actively lobbying on this, and our county councillors David Andrews and Jonathan Kay are also actively involved, liaising with highways and looking at what can be done to help. There are certain aspects at the moment that make things slightly worse or slightly better. There's the Kingsway Road works, which unluckily happen to have coincided with this and aren't helping, but they should be complete by the end of June. Compensating for that, because of the lockdown, we do have lighter traffic than usual, but we take very seriously the point that that may not continue as people get back to work. But I think we would emphasise that the town centre, with the new social distancing rules, is a safe and pleasant place for people to walk around. Certainly, it feels very much as if the pedestrian is king there now. And we've started the Shop Local campaign. Alex and I have been down there this morning. We were there last week as well. And it's good to see town centre businesses reopening. And we really urge everyone to go and support our town centre and help bring it back to life.
Absolutely, Councillor Kemp. Yeah, so I think essentially I completely agree with everything you said there, in addition to what I've already said. Yeah, there's no easy answer on this question, though we will do all we can, and that will mean some improvements, I'm sure, especially when the distances for the physical distancing are reviewed. But I can't say exactly when that will come, because I'm not the one making the decisions in Downing Street on this. It's sort of outside of our control. We just have to be able to adapt quickly to any changes that do come down to the benefit of the residents of the town, and we will do that.
Sorry, one final point I should have mentioned was that East Hertfordshire has also helped to stimulate use of town centres by suspending car parking charges, and we've in fact done so as a district for longer than any of the other Hertfordshire authorities. That will, however, be coming to an end on the 29th of June, partly because we want to discourage people from just parking all day and then blocking the car parks up for people who do want to use the town centre. So that's something we'd like to give advance warning of, so that nobody gets a surprise next Monday when those charges restart. And as far as possible, arrangements are being made so that people can pay by card rather than having to touch the machines.
Brilliant. What's the second question? Yeah.
Leanne, you're on mute.
Sorry. How are we working with county to ensure that sustainable transport methods are encouraged while the smaller residential areas like Star Street and High Oak Road are protected?
Okay, so thank you for that. I'm going to take that question in two parts, that I think sort of addresses two slightly different things. We can think about working with the county council to ensure sustainable transport methods are encouraged in the context of right now in this pandemic. And we can think about it in terms of the more longer term view about what we can do. And I think that, that they're slightly different in some respects. So what I would say firstly, with regard to what we're doing more generally to work with county to ensure we have the sustainable transport methods being encouraged, is firstly we're involved in we've got our business plan in place, which makes clear that we're going to be really developing our partnerships with these other authorities, including County Council, including East Sussex District Council, police, fire. We've already got the community safety partnership that I know the clerk is attending, town clerk is attending. It's when you get involved in all these forums, you're able to push ideas. And one of the forums which I think is very useful for that, which we put money into as town council, is the community rail partnership, which is looking at improvements that can be made to the sort of, not just the appearance of the train station and surrounding area, but also the rail experience. And that's something that's a particular bugbear of mine, because I commute regularly under normal times into London, as do other councillors, and it's we can't to encourage use of the train service as much as possible. Those essential for a lot of people going into London. It needs to be something where we get the new rolling stock in that we've been promised, in this case being put on delay, and that we have the free train per hour service in place once this is all over with the lockdown. So that's something which we can push more for through this new community rail partnership, which I think is a positive way of encouraging rail transport and pleasant rail transport. So I don't think it's very pleasant at peak times at the minute, the weekdays. In addition to that, we've also been funding the neighbourhood plan. Now, neighbourhood plan is for the current Ware boundaries, and that I think looks at development policies. And although it's community led by members of the community, not just councillors, the production of that, and it'll go to referendum in a couple of years' time. There are going to be policies in that on transport, on cycling, specifically, I believe, on bus provision, on walking, on encouraging places to sort of are pleasant to walk in. And I think that if we have those policies in place there on the planning side of things, so when we get new development coming in, that will help ensure that we have a town that is well suited to those non-car methods of transport. Beyond that, we're also looking at how we can potentially put a new cycle path in to Ware, especially around the perimeter of north of the town. We're going to get these new houses as part of the north and east of Ware broad area development in the district plan, the East Hertfordshire one. So we're thinking proactively about what we can do there to get people that are moving in there to cycle down to the train station, for example, if they're commuting into London, rather than drive. And again, that will help with parking on definitely the residential side streets in the old town. Thinking Cross Street, Range Road, Star Street, around there that are full of commuter cars often. We're hoping to reduce that phenomenon by encouraging more cycling. In addition to that, there's a spine road planned through the new developments, north and east of Ware, with improved bus service, and the aim is for majority of traffic to go onto the A10 at the Watson Park junction, which will help minimise extra traffic coming into the town itself and avoid any temptation for rat runs business up through North Ware and going around this new, when you've got the spine road that's sort of going to go around like a sort of from Star Street up to north of Woodson Park. We're hoping to avoid the creation of rad runs that go through Ware itself there, because we are an old town, we have narrow streets, we can't cope with all the cars as we're especially finding right now with these temporary restrictions in place on the high street. In addition, we recognise that the early 20th century housing that we already have isn't designed for parking. The terraced housing, it's not sort of built with people having 2 cars in many cases parked on the pavement. That wasn't what was planned when those properties were built. And, we're talking Musty Hill, High Oak Road, New Road, a lot of the early 20th stuff and 19th century stuff as well there, and that's a problem. So again, when we can bring all that up when we liaise with county on bus route planning, for example, in terms of how it can be revised with the new developments coming in north and east of Ware. Longer term, we need to have the behavioural changes, I think, in terms of people not using cars as much as they're currently. We live in a relatively rural district. You can't eliminate cars completely. It's just not going to happen. But I know that East Herts is very keen on encouraging electric car charging points, and that's something which we can put to Deputy County and also to East Herts in terms of thinking about what we might want in terms of Section 106 agreements for new developments, in terms of funding they give to infrastructure for the town. I think if we have more facilities for electric cars as they become more popular, that's going to be something that will encourage more environmentally sustainable forms of transport and their use. Additionally, we're very pleased to report that through our cooperation, principally with East Herts, but also with Hertfordshire County Council, the Victoria Cut footbridge closure that occurred, that's now over on the in terms of the by the bread bin, or the bread bin currently being all redeveloped. There's a new footbridge going in there. It's taken a lot longer than we were hoping, but we're very pleased the Environment Agency now put that planning application in, and that's going to help open up the towpath again. There might be stuff we can look at in terms of encouraging cycling either there. It's quite narrow though. So alternatively, we could look at cycle route around Broadmeads and the nature reserve through there, thinking about making that cycle friendly. So yeah, that's all good stuff that we are doing and will be doing over the coming years. When we think about the more immediate bits with the two roads that were mentioned, the Star Street and High Oak Road, at the minute, I think a lot of that comes back to some of what I was previously saying on my answer to the other question. Parking restrictions are always a sort of sticky area. I know that East Herts has been reviewing its use of controlled parking zones and mechanisms like that recently. So we've got one in Gladstone Road. I'm not advocating for or against any introduction of new ones at this stage. I think that should be something that we listen to residents on. But again, that is something that the Town Council will play a key role in terms of enabling that conversation, so that residents can put their views across to the district council, the county council, on matters of district council parking, but on matters like that. So yeah, there's stuff we can do, but again, apart from what we're planning on the cycle paths and campaigns for cycling and the funding of the neighbourhood plan steering group, there's very little that the town council can do directly on these things. So really it's about keeping ourselves in a loop and having the positive relationships with the other authorities, including the county council, so that we're able to make sure that where residents are listened to when decisions are taken on transport, sustainable transport matters, because I think we sometimes feel that hasn't always been the case in the past. And that's to be expected when they have a county of over 1 million people. I mean, the Hertfordshire goes all the way from Bishop's Stortford over to Watford. So we can't expect them, the officers there, to be familiar 100% with all the ins and outs of Ware and every other single town and village in the county. And that's where we come in, and that's where we can put the views of residents across and put the case of our.
Ian, do you have anything to add to that?
I think Alex has given a very comprehensive picture of all that's gone on, and it's an excellent piece of work. I think I'd emphasise again that councillors at all levels are working together on this. We have the town councillors, we have the district councillors, and we have our county councillors, David Andrews and Jonathan Kay. The county councillors are, of course, the ones with the closest links to highways. We aim to all work together and keep each other in the loop and lobby for the improvements that we believe are needed. And I think it is very much the case that this is long-term planning, a lot of it. We do want to see a modal shift. Everyone is agreed on that. See people cycling more, walking more, using enhanced bus services, particularly around the Spine Road. Those have come out of the master planning process. And to try and ensure that there is no tendency for traffic to take rat runs through North Ware, and indeed hopefully to divert a little bit of North Ware traffic onto the Spine Road itself. The aim with the Spine Road is entirely that as much traffic as possible will go directly onto the A10 at the Wadson Park junction, and therefore none of it will go through the town centre. And that is what's aiming to be achieved. There's actually also been a suggestion that Ware could become a sustainable transport town, and the town council approved in principle that we could apply for that. It's been put on hold due to the COVID-19 crisis. Our transport planning consultants have actually been tied up with doing all sorts of other sorts of work for obvious reasons. But some of the things going on at the moment with the one-way scheme in the centre perhaps give us some interesting pointers to both the opportunities and the difficulties and pitfalls that can occur if one wants to move towards sustainable transport. Above all, it is something that needs to be considered very, very carefully with as many different inputs as possible. And that's where I think the neighbourhood plan is particularly valuable, in that all sorts of different people, councillors, council officials, residents, the police and so on have all been involved in that. And environment and transport are two of the areas which are being firmly considered as part of that neighbourhood plan. And it is all taking shape at the moment, and will go out for a second public consultation, hopefully later this year, once we've pulled it all together, at which all residents will be able to have your say.
Just to say, the mayor has informed me that he's having technical issues, so he sends his apologies. And I'm not. If there's nothing else, Ian, would you like to end the meeting? Okay. Well, I'd just like to say thank you very much for everyone who's listening to this. Thanks to the wonders of modern technology, even if we are having a few teething troubles with it at times. The Meet the Mayor sessions are planned to continue fortnightly, and we do welcome additional written questions, preferably submitted as far as possible in advance, so that we can prepare a thorough and well-informed response. So thank you all very much for listening.